Alright, this is Archon, the light and the dark for the NES. And as you can see, I've got two controller ports plugged into the NES for a good reason. Now Archon was originally released for the Atari 8-bit computers, like the Atari 600 and the 800 XL, in 1983. And throughout the 80s, it was ported to basically everything from Apple II, Commodore 64, Amstrad CPC, ZX Spectrum, Amiga, DOS, and eventually in 1989, it made its way over to the NES. Starting off, the first thing you'll notice is it is a strategy game, and it looks a lot like chess. Now, interesting fact about this game, this is a game I got when it came out. My grandma, by the way, never bought anyone video games. Ever. They're very conservative, they're very religious, and I don't think they really thought video games were necessarily a good thing. And yet when this game came out, because it was sort of, I don't say educational, but, because it was a strategy game like chess, they actually sold this game at her local library. And so my grandma bought me this game for Christmas, and when I was 9 years old and this game came out, when I first got it, I didn't like it. I didn't give it a chance. The first time I started playing it, moving these little characters around on the screen, I thought, oh god, it's like chess. And it wasn't until my buddy came over that we tried it two-player, and we both really got into it, and we both loved this game after that. This game is so fun two-player. The versus mode, the fighting, it's really fast, it's really frantic, as you can see here, and it's so much fun two-player. So this game was developed by Free Fall Associates, and one of the designers is Paul Rishi. And if you've played games like StarCon, then you're going to be familiar with this. The fighting in StarCon is very similar, and actually it's the same guy that went on to make StarCon after this. He also went on to make a game on the PlayStation called the Unholy War, and that, despite being in 3D, is very similar to this as well. You got the fast, frantic, one-on-one, two-player fighting, with different animals and beasts that have different abilities. And so yeah, if you're familiar with any of those games, you're gonna like this game. So yeah, it starts off like chess. This game sort of mixes the strategy of chess with the fun of like an action-based, versus video game fighting, if that makes any sense. It's amazing. So you start off on this chessboard. Just like chess, you've got your different pieces. They all have different abilities. They move differently on the board, just like in chess. Your front row is pretty much just like in chess, your weak characters. You have your knights on the light side and your goblins on the dark side. They've got very low strength. They've got, short attacks with their, either like a sword or a club, and limited reach. But you get into your bigger characters, you've got all sorts of awesome characters in this game. And you get into the bigger characters, you get archers and dragons, stuff that have projectiles. You get a phoenix, which instead of throwing a projectile, you just turn into a fireball, and if you're touching the other character when you turn into a fireball, it damages them. So you have all these awesome characters with different abilities, and like I said, in the strategy part of it, it's how they move on the board. Different characters move differently on the board. Some of them can fly, they can go over characters, just like in chess. Some of the characters in the back row can jump over the front row. And of course, how many squares they can move on the board at a time. So there's essentially two ways you can beat this game. First of all, obviously, if you just simply destroy all the opposing pieces, then you're going to win. But you'll also notice on the board that there's 5 glowing squares. They call them the power points. There's 1 in the middle, and then there's 4 in each on each side of the board. If you get one of your characters on all 5 of those power points, then you win the game. There's also magic in this game. On the light side you have a wizard, and on the dark side you have a sorcerer, and he can conjure up spells. So you can heal your characters, you can revive characters if you have one of your favorite characters or pieces dies, you can revive him. You can summon elementals, which you can use to attack opposing pieces. And then also the power points come into play here because you can't use magic on the 5 power point squares. So if one of the enemies is on one of those power point squares, you can't summon an elemental on them. If you're if you're transporting a character, you can't transport them onto one of those power point squares. And yeah, so there's a little bit of strategy there. And Jesus, I don't know, it's an awesome game. I can't believe I hated this game when I was a kid. And I'm telling you, this game is so fun 2-player. And the strategy's not it's not too in-depth. I mean, if you suck at strategy but you're good at the action parts and the fights, you can essentially win. And here I am winning. I'm playing the dark side. And I'm totally winning. And I suck at chess, so it's not because I'm good at the strategy part. And sometimes it's just luck. You start throwing projectiles around and who knows what's going to happen in the fights. So they mix the strategy in with the action perfectly, and it makes for a very unique game. Like I said, this game started on the Atari 8-bit computers, and I just thought I'd show you what it looks like on the Atari 8-bit computers, so you can get an idea of actually how much better the port looks on the NES as far as the graphics go. But obviously, like I said, they're 5 years apart or something, so 6 years apart. So obviously that's no surprise there. Definitely a cool looking game. I guess if you can pick it up on any of those systems, I would imagine, as long as they get the controls down, and that's what's awesome about this game. It's a little slow and sluggish when you're on the chessboard, and the menus are really slow and sluggish. Like when you try and bring up a spell, it's very frustrating because it's very slow. But when you get into the fight, the controls are bang on, they're very quick and responsive, and that's part of what makes the one-on-one fighting so much fun. So as long as that's not slow on any of the other versions, it would be a good game, I think, on any of the platforms. So like I said, if you get all 5 of your characters on the 5 PowerPoint squares, you do beat the game. So here I am trying to beat the game, getting onto the last PowerPoint square. And if I win this fight, which I will because I've already done it, yeah, I win. So there you go. I told you I'd win, playing the dark side. Of course, in all fairness, the person I'm playing the game with, it was their first time playing the game. Obviously, I had this game growing up, so completely unfair advantage. Definitely, like I said, good game to pick up if you're looking for a good 2-player versus game on the NES or the other systems it was ported to. And see you guys later.